All right, and on the line with me I have Gary Lusberg today, and he'll be handling a little bit more of the demo as we move through. But for a high-level overview, what is the SRS transcription? And the transcription solution is basically designed to drive efficiencies through using mobile technology, as you see the provider there using the handheld smartphone. And it's got full integration with the SRS EHR, which we'll touch on. So we'll actually be tapping into the live interface into SRS for the schedule to be able to pull that schedule right onto the provider's smartphone. All right, and then there's going to be significant cost reduction, which Gary will speak about later on as we talk about how that can be accomplished. And then just simply the physician-friendly approach to the clinical documentation. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about using the cell phone and the SRS and on the go, but you can still use the SRS transcription platform with your handheld dictation units, whatever you guys are using now, whatever recorder, or you can use a combination of a recorder and your cell phone. But the physician-friendly approach is just going to touch on numerous things such as templates that can be created to aid the physician and save them time in their dictation. And then the smartphone portion of it, of course, will aid them in the flexibility of being able to dictate anywhere where they have cell phone reception. All right, and then as we were talking about the mobile app, there is a free iPhone and Android app at the iPhone or Android store, so you can download that application for free, and that's what we tap into and set up so we push the live interface to the doctor's phone so they can actually see the list of their patients and do their dictations right from the phone. It's nice. The custom macros and dictation templates, those are going to be parts where you have canned dictation, so the things that the doctors are dictating 20 times a day, if it's so much as just their post-ops or their follow-ups. All those regurgitated dictations we can create and use macros and templates to both reduce the cost and the time that it takes to complete the dictation for the physician. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Gary Lusberg, and he's going to take us through some of the details of the mobile application here. Okay, Gary?
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. And just to reiterate what Rob was explaining before, the software and the platform and the whole point of SRS Tx is to both make the practice more efficient and, more importantly, the providers more efficient. We're looking to try to have them achieve less dictation but still getting the same amount on the page, as well as reduce the transcription costs. And we'll get to that obviously later. But one of the main points now is the provider's use of a mobile application. So as Rob said, this is a free application that's being downloaded or can be downloaded. But if a provider would prefer the tactile function of a recorder versus utilizing their mobile devices or iPad or minis to dictate, by all means, they can use anything they want. Okay, what we're just trying to do is make sure that there is some flexibility for them. So the application, once it's downloaded, okay, you have your login, and once logged in, as Rob said before, we have a real-time feed to the patient schedule. So any add-ons or no-shows are going to show up accordingly with the providers. And what Rob was saying before with the cell phone access, mostly it's Wi-Fi, but if you're in a position where you don't have access to Wi-Fi, obviously 3G or 4G is going to be fine as well. Not only to just get the schedules themselves, but just to dictate and transmit those dictations. If it's someplace where you're out of zone, you can easily dictate and then upload once you get into an area that has cell phone or Wi-Fi coverage. The patient schedule itself is designed to be a digital workflow, very, very similar to what your providers are using now, where they're dictating and probably checking off of a paper chart, say, hey, I dictated on that patient. So what happens is, in this case, we might want to, for example, choose patient James Noble. So if I choose patient James Noble and dictate on James Noble can either have a check mark go as soon as I upload the dictation or be removed from the screen. And many, many providers like to see that, as they're dictating, the patients get removed from the screen so they know what they have left to dictate. In addition to that, they could look at, prior days if they've missed any of those dictations. But aside to being used as just a dictation application, just like a digital recorder, the application provides a lot of different things. Because of the real-time feed to the patient schedule, the doctor doesn't have to send us or dictate the patient name or dictate the MR number. So if I click on James Noble, okay, I can, Rob, it's not moving. There we go. If I click on James Noble, okay, the first thing that might pop up on James Noble is that dictation screen that you see here. So if you're looking at that red button to the right of the orange line, the doctor could just dictate on James Noble and, you know, just free dictate like they normally would. But there are many, many other options that they have available. So for example, once we click on James Noble, they also have the history of James Noble's prior notes. So the doctor can easily click on James Noble's prior note, open it, review the prior note, and begin dictating at the same time by clicking on the red button below. This is a great, great feature, and I actually just got off of a conference call because we're going to be having other documentation come in besides just dictated notes from SRS, so we're going to have a true SRS Lite application that's going to be able to be utilized on the iPhone, iPad, Android, or any other device that you have. What happens with the device once you record, okay, the patient, again, is going to be removed from the screen, okay, but you also have the options, as Rob was saying before, with templates. Now, these templates are completely customizable per provider, per practice. They could be used in any way. Now, what we have on the screen here is a template. For example, if I click on the new patient knee, what we've designed with the new patient knee for this particular provider you see on the screen is that when you call up the new patient knee, it's all the repetitive information that the doctor has dictated in the past, like a normal physical exam, we will put on the screen and actually charge a much, much, much reduced fee as opposed to the doctor having to redictate it. But more importantly than that, it's more a matter of time. So the doctor might dictate the chief complaint, the injury date, the HPI, and then go down to the physical exam and say, you know, just normal physical exam except change lesions to so on and so forth. So that's what we're looking at in terms of a really cost and time saving for the provider. Again, once the provider dictates, we return the reports back to them by the next business day. Now, the mobile devices can also be used as a workflow tool. Now, this is the same workflow tool that the staff members are going to be able to utilize on the web, or the providers can use on the web, our web-based software. And this is going to be a great thing for them in terms of a flow. So it's completely customizable, where if you want to just send reports directly into SRS and have them message into SRS, by all means, that's not a problem. But a lot of providers like to be able to, because of their time constraints of reviewing their reports and going into SRS, they have the ability to actually review the reports on their mobile application and electronically sign them on the mobile application. The way they do that is they would come in, hit the to be signed folder, they choose the patient or patients they want to sign. They would go over to the edit or e-sign button, and obviously editing on an iPhone would be a little bit more difficult than editing on an iPad, but just by clicking, if the report looked good, they could e-sign the report. Simultaneously, when the provider e-signs it, it's a HIPAA-compliant signature with a HIPAA-compliant audit trail, where this document is now going to be automatically faxed out to both the primary care physicians and any referring physicians that the provider dictates on, and simultaneously going into the patient chart in SRS in the correct tab and named correctly. So again, once it's signed, okay, it goes in. This is an illustration of the web-based software. Now, anything you see here can be completely customizable. So, for example, if you didn't want to have the to be signed folder, if your doctors are not going to go into their mobile device or not going into to the web-based software, which will be a power tab within SRS as well, then what could happen is these files can be directly sent to your staff. They could be corrected and sent directly into SRS. So, again, completely customizable per provider within the practice. In terms of a cost structure, many years ago we had to come up with ways that practices would become, we would become invaluable to a practice. The days of charging for straight dictation are completely over. So within SRS, we designed a system because this is not Word reports that we're working on. When we're typing in HTML, and it gives us the ability to be very robust in the way that we're able to identify points of a document. So for example, if you see here up at the top the letterhead and the patient information, that's at no charge. Anything that can be hard-coded into our system is going to be at no charge. Anything that you see here, for example, in the chief complaint and the lumbar that's not highlighted is going to be considered a macro or a quote-unquote template. And obviously anything that you see in the grayed out is going to be something that's going to be pre-dictated by the provider. This is just one example. There are thousands and thousands. We take and we analyze your provider's information, or you can utilize some of ours if it's something that you want, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But the way the cost structures work, I mean, I'm sure that many of you have looked at your transcription bills and have completely, gone haywire over them. But depending on how a transcription is charged, there are many different ways to charge. For example, if this report was calculated by every time the return key was hit at I think it's 9 cents a line, this report would cost $7.60. So it's a matter of making sure that you're educated on how you're currently being charged. If you were being charged at 12 cents per every 65 characters, this report might cost practice $5.33. The way that we've designed this within SRS Tx and the way that we've done a blended rate structure, okay, this same exact report would be $3.64. So a huge cost savings, but again, maybe even more importantly, a huge time saving for the providers. Rob, I think I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Gary. So basically, to recap the benefits of the SRS transcription, as Gary mentioned, we're going to set up the direct interface with the EHR at no cost and with the practice management at no cost. So your schedule is going to be flowing in directly to the individual provider's phone. It's going to speed up the physician, as Gary was pointing out, those templates and macros, and being able to reuse that canned verbiage that they're always saying on those common visits. Being able to reuse that information is going to speed them up and maybe even see a couple extra patients per day, or at least not have to be so rushed or stay longer at lunch or at the end of the day. The comprehensive reporting and the HIPAA audit trail are certainly nice features to have. And then the mobile access that we talked about with the application to be able to access, dictate, sign off pretty much anywhere at any time is a major convenience, as opposed to having to either be at a laptop or either at home or in the office to be able to have access to SRS. And that also includes if they're on call and they just want to look back at their prior note. Even if you don't have direct SRS access, it's nice to be able to at least pull up the patient's note on your phone and be able to review what you did last time you saw them. And then, of course, it's going to drastically reduce the transcription costs overall, as Gary just alluded to with the cost breakdown. All right, these are just a couple of testimonials. SRS transcription has been a game changer for me. I'm able to see 5 to 10 more patients per day and love the iPhone platform. So that was from Dr. Veronica Diaz. And the 5 to 10 more patients per day, that just speaks to the fact of not having to dictate quite as much and being able to utilize those macros and those templates means the doctor is going to spend less time dictating. And then our second testimonial is more of the transcription platform itself, and that was from Danbury Orthopedics, and just working with the platform and liking how the documents come into SRS and the seamlessness of the application. All right, and then the next steps. So if you like what you've seen here today, what we'd be more than happy to do is, depending on which region of the country you fall into, we'll set up a one-on-one demo where we can go into a greater depth into how this could improve your practice transcription workflow. So Gary will, and myself, if you're in my region, will be asking a lot of questions about your existing workflow and really get down to the details of how this application could be rolled into your practice and utilize the things within this platform. So if you're in the West, you're obviously in my region. If you're in the green area, you're in the southeast and you're in Megan's region. Gwinnett in the Midwest in the yellow. And in the northeast, we have Marcia. So if you've liked what you've seen here today and you want to further expand upon this and have a one-on-one session, make sure and reach out to your corresponding account executive. Other than that, well, I thank you very much for your attendance, and I thank you, Gary.
Thank you,
everybody have a great rest of the day.